So today, in this video, we're going to look at really cool and simple ways to eat in a very healthy manner so you'll be energized and feel fantastic.
Right, and we're not doctors, we're not prescribing, we're simply going to recap to you a lot of the things that we've learned over the years.
That's what we do.
Makes sense, and you know, if you want to go and use ChatGPT to ask it for advice or ask your doctor, ask whatever, but these are things that we find work that are simple that I think are also non-controversial.
I think so too.
Yeah,
there's nothing wacky.
We're not going to be like, well, you should be a carnivore, or no, you should be a vegan.
This you have to eat 10 raw pigs for breakfast. No, nothing like that.
So everything we're saying should probably resonate with almost any person who pushes a particular diet.
All right.
All right. Let's start with rule number 1, Mike.
Okay, carbohydrates. All my friends who gained weight have done it the same way I did when I gained weight, not now, was eating too many simple carbohydrates. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the one thing we just want to mention is I like to simplify this. There's so-called good carbs and so-called bad carbs, and people will argue about that all day long. The bad carbs, to me, to my mind, are the carbohydrates that come in a form that you will overeat. So I'll give you some examples. I love donuts. I could eat a box of donuts.
Potato chips.
Potato chips. Ice cream, which happens to be a lot of fat.
These are domino foods. You start and then just keep going.
Bars, cookies, crackers, cake, muffins. These are things that are very, very easy to overeat. And Tim Ferriss calls it a domino food. If you can eat it and keep eating it, it just keeps to like one leads to the next, leads to the next.
Yep.
So think of bad carbohydrates instead of defining them biologically like, well, they're simple, they're small glucose chains or whatever, or they're refined processed flours, whatever. It's probably true. I know you have a note here, Mike, that says that the bad carbs tend to be like very fast oxidizers.
Yeah.
Right?
Means they produce an insulin release really quickly to stabilize your blood sugar, but insulin stores fat.
Right. And your body, your bloodstream can only hold about 5 grams at a time, or only wants to hold about 5 grams, like 1 teaspoon of sugar at a time. So anything that has more than that, your body has to deal with it. So if you're eating something that massively triggers an insulin spike to deal with that big glucose spike, then that's probably not a good thing. But since we're not going to be measuring, for most of us, this stuff, it's simpler to just say, if it's a carbohydrate-based food, or don't even worry about the carbs, if it makes you overeat it, probably has a bunch of so-called bad carbs.
Right.
And usually they're combined with fats. That's the thing. The foods taste delicious when they're overly processed, and usually what you get is a combination of carbohydrates and fat.
And so donuts are a classic example. Yeah.
Like any of those, a chocolate mince, whatever they, sugar and oils and fats. And
right.
If you look at that and just go, what's the stuff that I'm overeating because it's designed to make me overeat? And cut that out of your diet and replace it with real food instead.
And just one final note on that. Carbs make you hungry. That's why you can eat a bag of potato chips and an hour later you're hungry again, because the insulin is crashing your blood sugar and you need more food.
So what are some examples here of things that we eat instead, things that you won't tend to overeat?
Well, I don't focus on carbs. That's the key. I focus on the good stuff, the high quality proteins, the proper fats, and then there's no room for the carbs.
So we're building our diet around things like proteins, high quality proteins first.
Eggs, meat, fish.
And let the fat and the carbohydrates come along for the ride naturally.
That's it.
Right.
If I put the main thing is I eat around the protein. So last night was two chicken thighs.
Right.
So there was a little bit of other stuff. One potato between my wife and I, sliced up thin. So we're not overdoing the carbs.
Yeah.
If we stay on the other stuff. But then there's other things that have carbs, like greens and so on.
Yeah,
which are very healthy.
That's the thing. If it comes along for the ride naturally, I find that it's not an issue at all.
I like that.
Eat as many green beans, eat as much salad as you want. It's actually the dressing. You want to watch out for we'll get into fats and stuff, but it's basically you want to watch out for all the crap that you put on the salad. Right. Where I find, to an extent, cheese, fine. Legumes, lentils, beans, you wrote chickpeas, sweet potatoes,
Greek yogurt, fabulous. Nothing added to it.
Yeah, most of these things.
Cottage cheese, protein, like incredible.
Imagine trying to stuff yourself on cottage cheese. How much could you cram down your throat?
Probably not that much.
Not that much, right? Or even like last night we had salmon. One fillet of salmon, a lot of protein in it, good fats obviously too. I'm full.
Yep.
I'm full. So when you're eating real foods, you tend not to overeat.
So let's get on to rule number 3 and keep this moving here.
All right.
We talk about eating and cooking with good fats. Well, how can fat be good? There's some fats that are actually very healthy and good for you. Olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, classic one, very healthy for your body. That's part of the Mediterranean diet, so-called. The idea, avocado oil. I use a mayonnaise made with avocado oil, and it's delicious. Things like beef tallow to cook in. That's what people did in pioneering days.
Exactly.
These are good fats. Coconut oil, butter.
Yeah, I really like this. I would simplify it the same way and say, so I don't think it's a good idea to add a whole bunch of fat on purpose. But when you do need to, have a non-slip surface to cook on, or you want to add a little bit of butter on top of your green beans for flavor, that's great. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to eat a whole bunch of crap that has fake fats. Fats that if you put them out on the container and the ants won't touch them.
No, they won't.
Margarines and basically
margarine's plastic fat.
When they come from what I remember a report, I think it was actually Credit Suisse versus Boston, they did one, and they called it solvent extracted oils, which is a great term for it. So soybean, canola, corn, so-called vegetable oil, they make it sound healthy.
Yeah.
But it's not normal. It's not normally found in nature. They have to be extracted using solvent from the seeds.
That's a red flag right away.
Of these things. So instead of that, natural oils like olive oil, avocado, coconut. By the way, those are all categorized as fruits, or I think in the case of coconut, a drupe or something, right?
I think a coconut is actually a berry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not a vegetable. Okay. And these fats are fine. Use them in moderation instead of the other stuff. And, make your own salad dressing instead of buying the ones that are made with soybean oil. Use it in moderation.
And we really run from canola oil because it's loaded with omega-6. And omega-6 is inflammatory in your system. Inflammation is behind all kinds of problems.
And marketing, right? Why is it called canola oil?
Canadian oil.
It's been genetically engineered. I can't remember the name of the fatty acid that they removed from it. It was a problem, but there's some name for it. Once they genetically engineered rapeseed oil. Rapeseed oil. It doesn't sound like a very good name, right? Who wants to eat rapeseed oil?
Not me.
And then when they genetically engineered the part that was problematic out of it, they called it canola, Canadian oil. Oh, sounds healthy, right?
Well, the thing is, too, we say if you focus on raw greens and vegetables like spinach, arugula, kale, if you add that to your diet as well, you get great fiber. It's going to help fill you up. So you can have a big protein source on your plate, like 3 or 4 hard-boiled eggs. My doctor confirmed that there is no relationship between dietary cholesterol and serum cholesterol.
That's been known since the 1950s.
But people still try to get you to reduce cholesterol. But if you are eating greens, you can have them. I would eat a handful of raw organic greens in a tub in the fridge. Eat them like potato chips.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually pretty good.
And we'll buy baby cucumbers because they're a little like bag of them at Costco or whatever. And if I have to get out of bed to go let the dog out for a pee or something, and I'm thinking, I'd like to have a good time for a little snack, instead of eating some garbage, I grab one of these cucumbers, slice the ends off, slice it into 4, and I just eat it.
Fantastic.
And a little bit of salt, actually, that's not a bad idea. So real food instead of the stuff that causes you to overconsume.
Right.
That results in you not having to do all this unnecessary calorie counting, because the number of calories that you eat, which is just like how Ted Nyman says, it's really just calories are a representation of carbon chains. Right?
Okay.
It's like if you don't want to count that crap, just eat the stuff that
focus on the good stuff.
In you eating the right amount.
Focus on the good stuff. We found the weight just slips away and we can still put on muscle. Now, the thing that I think is really important, a friend told me this years ago, and I've been adhering to this, and I find it excellent. Make a rule for yourself that, most people eat dinner at different times, but typically supper, let's call it. Some people you're eating, when I was a kid, it was 5:30. Now my wife and I eat about 6 p.m. every night, 6:30 at the latest. But here's the thing. If you stop eating once 7 o'clock hits, you're not going to be grabbing handfuls of macadamia nuts or looking for cookies or anything like that, or, any kind of food. Because if you eat sufficient protein, you will not be hungry. You won't be wanting to snack. If you're not feeling satiated, full afterwards, you're not eating enough protein.
Right.
7 o'clock's a good mark.
Mark Sisson said that, right? I think you already said that.
Yeah.
If you're not full, you probably didn't eat protein.
You haven't eaten enough protein.
That's been one of the biggest things over the last 10 years that I think I've learned is add more protein. And it doesn't mean I have to eat a pound of steak all at once or something, but just distribute that throughout the day. Yeah. When I am hungry, I'll have a high protein snack. Now that leads actually to a quick discussion on the idea of snacking.
Okay, this is entirely
right?
artificial. Our forebears in 1900s did not snack. And the way people eat now, kids have breakfast. They have a mid-morning snack at school, cookies and cream or something.
This is the thing.
Then they have lunch. Then they have an afternoon snack, milk and
snack
cookies.
tends to be junk.
Yeah, or a Hostess Twinkie or something, or a cupcake. Then you have supper, and then you could have a bedtime snack as well. So people are eating throughout the day, and they're eating carbs over and over and over. I give you one example. I called her Lori Lump. I went out with a girl when I was 21, and lovely girl, and her niece was Lori, and this kid was just a walking pork chop. She was so fat. And why was that? Her parents thought she wasn't eating enough. And every single night before bed, they gave her a plate of mashed potatoes with salt and butter on it. Every night.
Yeah.
And then she's asleep, and this is all just turning into fat.
Yeah, and if you think of it, just think of it this way. Go to the grocery store and look at the aisle labeled snacks, snack food. Puddings and jellos and cookies and cakes and granola bars and all
Candies,
this crap.
chips.
Right? Is that the technical term for it?
Crap. Yeah.
So snacks tend to be crap. So if you're going to snack and you're just defining it as this is my snack, but it's actual food, I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I'll sometimes have a handful, and I mean 5 macadamia nuts just to get the protein, fat, carb mix.
Yeah.
It's great. So one of the other things we have to mention, excess alcohol. Typically, I'm a wine drinker. I like my 2 glasses of red wine with supper. And, 2 days a week, I'll have a shot of one of my favorite whiskeys, just sit and savor it for maybe 45 minutes. Now, that doesn't cause me to gain weight.
Right.
But if I start ramping that up, or God forbid, if I added beer to the mix, guess what happens? My body is burning the alcohol for fuel, and the food is the extra. The food is the extra that's going to be stored.
Alcohol is a toxin. Like, regardless of how much we may love red wine, we have to recognize alcohol is a poison to the body in higher volume. It has to be dealt with metabolically first.
Right, through a number of steps.
The expression "don't drink your calories" is a good expression.
Yeah,
it is not a good idea to liquid consume energy over and over.
Not. If you're drinking like a giant Slurpee or something of Mountain Dew,
pretty much, yeah,
you're basically whipping your pancreas. So
I think
that's a strand of barbed wire. If you do that,
yeah, I think that's good advice. Don't be drinking a ton of calories, which means alcohol in moderation. And also any other liquids that are high calorie, high energy, like drinking juice, that is not a health food.
No.
Drinking cola.
Whole fruit is okay.
Not a health food. So do not drink your freaking calories.
Definitely not. I say beer is like bread in a bottle. So keep that in mind.
That's a great expression.
Yeah, it's a good one. And water is a best drink. Some people find even sparkling water is bloating. So you got to be careful. But water, pure water is your best choice. And I have tea and coffee and all that as well. But water is my go-to.
So in summary, I think that pretty much wraps up what we wanted to say.
I think
to summarize all of this, stay away from the stuff that causes you to overeat, which tends to be what I would call so-called bad carbs. Build your meals around protein and vegetables, which are natural, high fiber, low sugar carbohydrates, and eat real food. Just eat real food.
Things your grandparents would have recognized as food.
If you do that, and you follow some of the other advice we've given, you will have an awesome life. Now, again, we're not doctors.
Nope, this is what we do.
Experiment on yourself, speak to your doctor, see what works for you. Consider this information only.
But my bet is if you eat according to this, or if one eats according to this, not necessarily you, and does a bit of light exercise even, you will burn fat and you'll have a lot more energy.
You'll feel great. All right, that's it. So we'll see you in the next video. Thanks once again, and good night and healthy eating.